From the headquarters of Talasio English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sonia Gray. We start in Chile, where the appointed governor in the Araucania region, Luis Mayol, has resigned following the murder of a Mapuche community member, Camilo Catrillanca. Telesio's correspondent in the area has confirmed the news. Now, Mayol has blamed the opposition for, quote, not supporting the change that we are accomplishing in the region. He says Catrillanca's case was a common criminal death. So let's take a deeper look at what happened to Catrillanca in this report.
It took just until the media left the Mapuche community for police to once again raid the area.
Even after killing one of us, they continue to harass and criminalize us. We are afraid. They just fired at us with no provocation.
6 people were wounded, among them a pregnant woman who had to be rushed to the hospital. These people say they can no longer tolerate state terrorism.
What's wrong with you? He loaded the weapon. He loaded the weapon. It's not enough to kill one of us. They want to kill more.
These videos show what the special forces wanted to hide.
The events that led to the death of Camilo Catrillanca were in the memory card of the body cam of the officer who shot him. He initially said he had no camera, but he did, as mandated by law. But he destroyed the memory card. That's unacceptable.
Destroying evidence and obstruction of justice cost 6 officers their job. But mourners know who is responsible for Camilo's death.
Chadwick and Mayol must leave their post. They are responsible for what happened. They treated my child as a criminal. We will not accept this. The government must admit this was a massacre.
The Interior Minister was in a rush to avoid more questions about murder number 16 of a Mapuche, under what is supposed to be a democracy.
Business persons in Tijuana are offering jobs to Central American migrants as part of the caravan. Authorities are also doing their part by providing them with information on how to regulate their situation. Most of the migrants come with professional skills that the border Mexican city wants to take advantage of. At least 3,000 migrants from the caravan are currently in Tijuana.
We are offering around 10,000 jobs for the industry as well as other productive activities in the city, such as restaurants that have approached us.
My goal is not Tijuana, but while I wait for other opportunity, I will have to stay here temporarily.
But as more and more migrants arrive in Tijuana, resources in various shelters are starting to run out. Officials estimate they can provide aid to migrants for just 10 more days. Migrants are currently awaiting to undergo the lengthy asylum request process.
Right now they have a illegal migration process to get into another country, which would take some time. But in the meantime, we are responsible for providing them with basic needs.
The mayor of the border city of Laredo in Texas has said that the presence of troops is affecting the city's social and economic outlook. Pete Sanez said that Laredo has a sensitive relationship with Mexico and that the military presence will cause a drop in trade with the Mexican city of Nuevo Laredo. Mexican residents account for almost half of Laredo's retail trade.
We do depend heavily on the Mexican shopper, on trade. Commercial trade and the Mexican retail shopper. 40 to 50% of our economy is driven by our Mexican neighbors. I usually say we're tied to the hip. I mean, we're a region. We consider ourselves a region.
The U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Christian Nelson, has visited the border with Mexico. She insists that the Trump administration will not allow any migrant to cross the border illegally.
Let me first acknowledge what was referenced and what I'm standing in front of. This is a border wall with row upon row of concertina wire. Make no mistake, we are very serious. You will not get into our country illegally.
Colombia has requested that Cuba capture the National Liberation Army rebel commander Nicolas Rodriguez. The government has sent a verbal request to the island requesting information about the presence of several commanders of the ELN in Cuban territory. Many see this as a sign that the peace talks between the Colombian government and the guerrilla group are not likely to resume anytime soon. Meanwhile, the ELN has published a letter appointing Rodriguez as its new peace negotiator. The letter was sent to the High Commissioner for Peace in Bogota. Peru's social organizations and trade unions are joining together to demand that the former president, Alan Garcia, not be given asylum in Uruguay. They want him to face justice. More in this report.
Trade unions joined the protest against the possibility that former President Alan Garcia could be granted political asylum in Uruguay. Protesters marched to the Uruguayan ambassador's home in Lima to make themselves heard.
He stole. He hurt our country. He stole so much money under the guise of large construction projects. He pocketed it all. That's the truth.
Union leaders say that if given asylum, his crimes will remain unpunished, and not only those related to corruption. They also mention the crimes against humanity committed during his first administration in 1986, which included a number of massacres.
This is the second time the justice system has gone after Garcia, but we can't allow him to escape justice again. He must face the punishment for his crimes.
For experts, the fact that Garcia sought refuge in the home of a foreign diplomat points to the fact that he is aware of his culpability.
If the Uruguayan authorities deny his asylum, the prosecutor will be able to immediately order Garcia's arrest, because there is a proof he's trying to evade justice.
Everyone is now waiting for Uruguay's decision in the matter, as there is no set date for them to announce it.
Funeral has been held in Cuba for the Venezuelan ambassador Ali Rodriguez Araucania. Diplomatic staff from the island and the Venezuelan embassy have paid tribute to Rodriguez for his fight against neoliberal governments in the 60s. They also celebrated the diplomat's career and his work to promote Latin American integration. We'll take a short break now. More news after this.
Enjoy our programming from Monday to Friday, where you'll find the best information on culture, innovation, conservation, human well-being. Keep up to date on the latest innovations in science and technology with Atomun. The habits and knowledge you need to live a healthy lifestyle are on Guide Your Body. Environmental consciousness is required to preserve our Earth. Undergo your transformation on Green Zone. All about equity, diversity, and respect for identities on By Gender. Cultural manifestations, the art in all its forms, and the stories of real lives. Every day we feature a wide variety of content. Only on Telesur, the news source from Latin America and the Caribbean.
Welcome back. The third day of the Forum on Critical Thinking is kicking off in Argentina this Wednesday, just a week ahead of the G20 meeting in that country. The theme of the event is fighting for equality, social justice, and democracy. During the four-day meeting, leaders are discussing social issues affecting the region.
To our America, our Latin America,
And the president of the Association of Grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo, Estela de Carlotto, recalled the crimes committed by the military dictatorship in Argentina. During the forum, she explained the importance of resistance.
If you didn't abide by the sinister project, you were an enemy. I think some military said he had intention of killing 3 million people. They couldn't do it because they found a lot of resistance. We suffered the loss of a daughter, a son, a husband, and a brother. We don't stay in our house, we go out.
And our correspondent Jorge Gestoso is covering the forum and has interviewed the Dutch sociologist Saskia Sassen, who has specialized in globalization and migrations. She says a new group of rich people is making inequality more evident in the cities.
And for instance, if you take the city as a critical space, where more and more people live in cities, once you have this type of extractive, and once you have these 30 to 40% of very high income people, you notice that in a city. The 1% were always there. But once you have up to 40%, like in a city like New York, of very high income people that want, where before there were 3 families living in a building, they want the whole building for themselves and just one person. That is noticed. So the modest middle classes, the doctors, the nurses, they have to move to the suburb. There are a whole set of transformations that come with that.
Our correspondent also spoke to the Swedish sociologist Goran Therborn, who warned that inequalities within countries is increasing.
Both in terms of life expectancy and also in terms of income, cities can be very unequal. My most worrying example, I think, is Johannesburg, the city of Johannesburg in South Africa, where the income inequality is within the city, is about the same as between the households of the whole world. So it's cities can harbor enormous inequalities living close by each other.
Argentina's government has failed to strip the former president Cristina Fernández de Kirchner of her parliamentary immunity. Only 26 of the required 37 lawmakers turned up for the Senate session. That's 24 from the government bloc and just 2 from the opposition. For many, this proves that Fernández de Kirchner is the victim of political persecution. The former president is facing allegations that her government covered up for those responsible for the bombing of a Jewish center in 1994. Cab drivers in Ecuador have protested against the ride-sharing mobile applications Uber and Cabify. They said that these applications increase insecurity and violate labor rights. The president of the National Assembly has received a proposal to reform the transportation and road safety law, which includes sanctions for ride-sharing applications.
These foreign applications need to be shut down. Over the past 3 months, they have destroyed our business. There are some co-workers who can't afford to pay for their cabs, and they have to give them back to the dealerships. We will continue fighting until these applications are banned.
The British rock star and founder of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, has visited indigenous communities in Ecuador's Amazon region. He is showing support to the communities affected by decades of oil pollution by the multinational Chevron Texaco. Waters told the media that the law must serve us all and not just the Chevrons of the world. He also spoke about the situation of the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange. He said that the current Ecuadorian government should defend his right to asylum as the previous government had. And Telus here sat down for an exclusive interview with Roger Waters, so make sure you watch it this Wednesday at 1600 Los Angeles time and 1900 in Quito and midnight in London. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has celebrated the bicentenary of the Declaration of the Republic and the struggle to gain freedom and independence, a battle he says continues.
Venezuela today is fighting a huge battle for our freedom. We are giving a tremendous fight for our right to exist. We are giving a tremendous battle against imperialism. The same of John Bautin's Erwin for our right to develop our own political, economical, social, cultural, republican model, for our right to be independent today in the 21st century.
Business leaders have gathered in Venezuela to evaluate the strides made by the government's economic recovery plan. So let's find out more in this report.
300 international entrepreneurs gathered in Caracas to discuss investment and production in Venezuela. The positive results of the government's economic recovery plan are already being felt.
We have seen their strategies to destabilize our economy. You can be for or against their government, but we can't deny there are criminal, systematic, and meticulous efforts to destabilize our economy and hurt our country.
The goal for 2019 is to expand production and support Venezuelan companies.
Foreign investors see investment opportunities in Venezuela. They see that we are open to dialogue. They see that we can be trusted, that we are peaceful. They see Venezuela as full of benefits.
What was clear during this meeting is the impact that Venezuela's new economic model has had, serving as a shield against foreign mafias that support an economic war against the country.
There's a huge fuel deficit in Colombia that will be hard to overcome, and it's getting worse due to the amounts of fuel that's smuggled out of Venezuela. We have calculated that the fuel that's been stolen equals $12 billion and has sped up the attempts at intervention from Colombia.
During this meeting, clear goals were set to support the country's economy. 3 months after this new plan started, another victory has been the use of the country's cryptocurrency, the petro. Many believe that Venezuela is on its way to economic sovereignty.
Dozens of toys and stuffed animals have been placed outside the Colombian Congress to protest child sexual abuse. Demonstrators are demanding that abusers be brought to justice and that victims receive the support they need. On average, a child is sexually abused in Colombia every 30 minutes, and only 3% of the cases go to trial, according to the NGO Aldeas Infantiles.
The toys are to raise their voices, demand justice, demand better services, and also demand specialized attention for families on behalf of so many children who have been victims of sexual abuse.
For us, as a family, it was very difficult to have to see our daughter suffer. Our daughter is very strong emotionally, because she knew that the person she loved the most, her father, hurt her.
We'll take another short break now. Stay with us.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays, only on Telesur. The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Turkey says it may ask the United Nations to launch a formal inquiry into the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi if Saudi Arabia fails to cooperate with Ankara regarding the case.
As we cannot find the answers to the questions that I have just mentioned, we don't think the cooperation with Saudi Arabia is at a level where we will want it to be. It is our right to get more information. If there is an impasse or the investigation comes to a standstill, or we cannot fully cooperate, then we might have to apply for an international inquiry.
But the U.S. president is standing with Saudi Arabia and is downplaying the Saudi Crown Prince's alleged role in the Khashoggi killing. The CIA has concluded that the Saudi Crown Prince personally ordered the journalist's murder.
Because it's America first for me. It's all about America first. We're not going to give up hundreds of billions of dollars in orders and let Russia, China, and everybody else have them. It's all about, for me, very simple. It's America first. Saudi Arabia, if we broke with them, I think your oil prices would go through the roof. I've kept them down. They've helped me keep them down. They didn't make a determination. And it's just like I said, I think it was maybe he did, maybe he didn't. They did not make that assessment. The CIA has looked at it. They've studied it a lot. They have nothing definitive. And the fact is, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. If you look at Iran, what they've done, they've been a bad actor. You look at what's happening in Syria with Assad, with hundreds of thousands of people killed. We are with Saudi Arabia. We're staying with Saudi Arabia. And by the way, just so everybody, I have no business whatsoever with Saudi Arabia. Couldn't care less.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that a strong response to Khashoggi's murder could harm what he called the long and historic relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia.
So as the President said today, the United States will continue to have a relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're an important partner of ours. We will do that with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, its people. That is the commitment that the President made today. It's that straightforward. By the way, this is a long, historic commitment and one that is absolutely vital to America's national security.
With 13 million people at risk of death by starvation in Yemen, health workers in the Aslam region are making a desperate plea for help. Many families are now forced to eat leaves to ward off starvation. This as the blockade continues to smother humanitarian deliveries of food and medicine. According to the UN, one Yemeni child under the age of 5 dies every 10 minutes from otherwise preventable diseases and severe malnutrition. And at least 15 people have been killed in a suicide bombing near Kabul in Afghanistan. The blast also left about 80 injured. It happened during a meeting of religious scholars who were celebrating the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad. No individual or group has yet claimed responsibility for the deadly attack.
When I heard the explosion, I thought it had happened behind the waiting hall. People ran and said there were other suicide bombers. There were several dead and wounded. Security forces came fast to the scene of the suicide attack.
The leader of Zambia's main opposition party has been questioned by the police for allegedly inciting attacks against Chinese nationals and businesses in the north. The allegations are related to rioting which took place 2 weeks ago. Those protests erupted after the opposition leader announced that a state-owned firm had been sold to the Chinese. The government has since denied this claim. The South African opposition party, Economic Freedom Fighters, are demanding the dismissal of the country's public enterprises minister. Opposition members gathered outside the building where the minister, Pravin Gordhan, is appearing before a commission of inquiry, which is examining his alleged corruption links with the Gupta family. The Gupta brothers are accused of working with the former president, Jacob Zuma, to secure government contracts, siphon off billions in state funds, and determine ministerial appointments.
It is the same thing the ANC, these white liberals who are scared of the truth, always say to us, why are you attacking Pravin? Hey, it's immoral to attack Pravin. How can Pravin be a fruit of a rotten tree and not be rotten himself. Because Pravin is in the ANC. Why do you say the ANC is corrupt? On the other hand, say no, Pravin is different.
A sitting member of the Central African Republic's Parliament will appear before the International Criminal Court this Friday for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Alfred Yeka Tom, who is nicknamed Rambo, has been handed over to The Hague for the alleged murder, deportation and torture of Muslims. A UN Commissioner of Inquiry found that Christian militias under Rambo specifically targeted Muslims during the country's conflict. And that story has brought us to the end of this news brief. But for these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at celestiaenglish.net. For viewers in Africa, remember we are on Starstat Channel 461 in South Africa and 539 in Nigeria. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telestia English, I am Soini Gray. Thank you for watching.